He's come out of nowhere and we don't know who he is.
What do we know about him?
He's leading desperate people.
So this is a cult?
We don't know who he's associated with. He could be creating an army. Or he could be leading them to their death.
What were you doing in Syria?
Delivering a message.
A message from whom?
My father.
And who is your father?
We've lost it.
What do you mean?
He just disappears.
No one just disappears.
We all witnessed a miracle.
He saved my daughter's life.
You need to see this.
Bury it for as long as you can. He didn't just click his heels and end up here. He clearly had help. You get around Syria, Israel, Texas.
It's the nature of my work.
And what is that work?
God's work.
Who do you think he is?
You didn't see what I saw.
And if I did, would I be calling him the second coming?
How far will this new movement spread?
I'm going to find out everything about you.
This is bigger than what you can imagine.
Shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Whoa.
Those are your parents? And they brought the Galactic Armada? What Watch out for the kid! Don't hit him!
Son, there you are. Quick, get in the car. We gotta go.
No, wait, Dad, I gotta tell you something.
What? I know. You were right. Alien invasion. I see that now. Look up. There it is.
Yeah, you know, about that. It's actually just a rescue mission.
Rescue mission?
Yeah, you see, this alien kid was left behind by mistake, and they're just coming back to get him. So we have to help him, Dad, because if we don't, who else will?
What?
Forget it. You know, you wouldn't believe me anyway.
Son, come back! Son! Chicken Little!
Mr. Croc! Wait, he's telling the truth!
He is! Though given his track record, we understand why you don't believe him!
Watch out for the kid! No! Don't hit him! Don't hit him! Look out!
I am the chosen one.
Our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
It looks like a scene right out of a Sermon on the Mount. We traveled many kilometers through bug-infested forests to reach this isolated village in Siberia, this most northern part of Russia. Here we meet Jesus, or Vassilion, as they also call him.
But humankind must make a choice. They have to be shown the way, and they must choose to follow or not to follow. God will not make a choice for them.
Unbelievably, 15 years ago, this Jesus was Sergei Torop, a small-town Siberian policeman. But now he believes he is the Son of God, reincarnated.
People will decide for themselves. Is his way for them, or will they choose something else? But everything has a price.
He says he made a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, and even though he has never visited Israel before, a lot of what he saw, he says, was familiar.
It was a home that was left long ago. I arrived with deep feelings of the past and new feelings within new body. With these feelings I move about in familiar places. This is exactly the time when the old world, with its aggressiveness and self-interest, must die. It cannot be allowed to exist. It just brings pain.
Freemasonry, for example, is one of the ways that people are systematically brought to the point where it is revealed to them that Lucifer is in fact God. This deception is based on the fact that initially Masons believe that what they're involved in is in fact Christian. One of the former leaders of the Theosophical Society, who was contemporary with Blavatsky and Annie Besant, tells us what the 19th century position on Satan is. In his work Spiritualism, Madame Blavatsky and Theosophy, Rudolf Steiner states, quote, Lucifer is not a being that we can see with our present-day physical eyes. Lucifer can be seen only with the awakened clairvoyance. seeing clairvoyantly, in fact, Lucifer is a particular being who was left behind during the moon phase of evolution. End of quote. N. Sri Ram, who often gave lectures at the United Nations, who himself is a major theosophist and was a writer for Lucifer magazine, clarifies, quote, "The adversary, or Satan, is no other than Lucifer, the light-bearer, the bright morning star. He is the initiator, awakening the divine faculties of intellect on man. He is the king of the fallen angels, spirits from higher spheres, who descended among primitive mankind of the third race, to develop in man and endow him with his self-conscious mind or manas." End of quote. Theosophy teaches that Lucifer is actually a divine being that saves mankind and brings him consciousness. Many modern-day New Agers who are deceived by Theosophy repeat the same theme. For example, David Spangler admits that Lucifer is a being that New Agers honor and that the light of Lucifer is the light of God. Quote, he says, "The true light of Lucifer cannot be seen through sorrow, through darkness, or through rejection. The true light of this great being can only be recognized when one's own eyes can see with the light of the Christ, the light of the inner sun. Lucifer works within each of us, trying to bring us to wholeness as we move into the new age, which is the age of man's wholeness. Each of us in some way is brought to that point, which I term the Luciferic initiation."
Flammas eius, Lucifer matutinus inveniat.
The particular doorway through which the individual must pass if he is to come fully into the presence of his light with his wholeness.
I want to talk to him.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.
Lucifer comes to give us the final gift of wholeness if we accept it, that he is free and we are free. This is the Luciferic initiation. It is one that many people now and in the days ahead will be facing, for it is an initiation into the new age. It is an initiation of leaving the past and moving into the new, shedding our guilt and fears, our anxieties, our needs, our temptations, and becoming whole and at peace because we have recognized our inner light, the light that unfolds us, the light of God. End of quote. We can now therefore conclude that Luciferian doctrine is fused into the New Age movement through Theosophy. Along with this doctrine is the belief that because of Satan, man will now evolve spiritually and intellectually, conquer the world, conquer nature, and become a god.
And I just breathe it all in. Her.
Your father.
What?
You have to believe me.
Has Dad ever visited Earth before?
Oh, they grew up so fast, don't they?
There is no winning when you play by a twisted tyrant's rules.
Every bad thing that's happened throughout eternity is your doing, not mine.
Lucifer, you love her.
Well, every fiber of my being.
We're lying about you.
What? We can't let our feelings get in the way of our work.
He cares too much.
I learned it all from you. And you too must be punished.
Now here is an admission that Freemasonry is aimed at creating God-men, just as Hitler wanted to do. The purpose of initiation in Freemasonry is to attain godhood. Quote, "The height of the lodge, even as high as the heavens, implies that the range of consciousness possible to us when we have developed our potentialities to the full is infinite. Man who has sprung from the earth and developed through the lower kingdoms of nature to his present rational state has yet to complete his evolution by becoming a godlike being and unifying his consciousness with the omniscient to promote which is and always has been the sole aim and purpose of all initiation."
You know what, sometimes what you leave out of a story is even more interesting than what you leave in. That happened when we were in Oxford, Maryland. Learned that the pride of that old town was one Robert Morris Jr., the financier of the American Revolution. Years ago, we used to go down to the county library to get a picture of a bird like that, but now we just use the internet. That's where I found this picture here. Now, the caption said it was a shot of the Greek god Mercury handing a bag of loot to Robert Morris, the financier of the American Revolution. Well, that's just a tiny part of a much bigger picture called the apotheosis of Washington. Now, apotheosis is a Greek word that means to make divine. In other words, this painting shows George Washington becoming a god. Now, I never knew that happened. But there it is for all to see, painted under the most famous dome in the whole country, maybe the whole world, the United States Capitol. Now, the most interesting part of this particular heaven are the folks that live in it. Now, you'd expect to see Moses and Abraham and Ezekiel and that crowd hanging around, but not a single fella from the Bible's up there. Now, Minerva, the Roman goddess of crafts and wisdom, is shown delivering an electrical generator and batteries and a printing press to Benjamin Franklin, Samuel Morse, and Robert Fulton. And Neptune, the Roman sea god, and Venus, the goddess of love, are shown helping to lay the transatlantic telegraph cable. I'll bet you they were a big help. Now, there's some other gods, but not a single prophet, apostle, or even a lower archangel in the whole 4,500 square feet. All I know is what I read on the internet, but you hear a lot of talk these days about the religious beliefs of our founding fathers. Now, those boys may have been as devout as saints. We'll never know. One thing's for sure, you'd never tell by looking at Capitol Dome. Charles Paparella, WBOC News.
I'm asking you to come to the person of Jesus Christ.
After 6 decades as America's pastor, America now mourning the death of Reverend Billy Graham.
My father said years ago, he said, when you hear that Billy Graham is dead, don't you believe it for a second. He said, I'll be more alive than ever before. And he's in the presence of God.
Christ belongs to all people.
A gospel he dedicated his life to spreading. Graham was known as the most influential preacher of the 20th century, reaching hundreds of millions of people around the world, serving as counselor to every president since Harry Truman, and comforting America during some of its darkest times, including 9/11.
Why does God allow evil like this to take place?
Today, funeral preparations underway at the Billy Graham Library in his hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina. A giant tent under construction to hold 2,300 invited guests, including President Trump and every former U.S. president. Before that, Graham will lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol.
A great man has died, but will be remembered.
He just touched the lives and hearts of many people, and he's someone that you look up to.
Over the next week, tens of thousands of people expected to come pay their respects.
My father was a very humble person. He never saw himself as a celebrity. He just always saw himself as a farm boy from Mecklenburg County.
A man who never looked for fame, but found it by simply showing love.
Maitreya and Benjamin Krem. Benjamin Creme claims that in 1959 he was contacted by the Ascended Masters, asking him if he wanted to be a forerunner for the coming New Age Christ Maitreya. He became the official mouthpiece for who he called Lord Maitreya. According to Creme, in 1977 Maitreya made his first physical appearance. Benjamin Creme sees himself as a contemporary to John the Baptist in the Bible. He heads up an organization called Share International. And if you look at the website, it says, in the midst of war, fear and famine, new hope is in the world for us all. Also on the website, he has a little article. It's entitled The Master's Latest Article, and it says this, quote, under the wise guidance of the Christ and his brothers, man will attain the full stature of revealed divinity, which is his birthright, did he but know it. Stage by stage, century following century, man will build a civilization which will demonstrate his growing manifestation of divinity, a culture in which the beauty of the divine creation will be expressed in all its aspects, a mirror in which the divine idea will be reflected in all its glory. End of quote. Now, who is Maitreya? Benjamin Creme says that he has been expected for generations by all of the major religions. He says Christians know him as the Christ and expect his imminent return. Jews await him as the Messiah. Hindus look for the coming of Krishna. Buddhists expect him as Maitreya Buddha. And Muslims anticipate the Imam Mahdi or Messiah. He says although the names are different, many believe that they all refer to the same individual, the world teacher, whose personal name is Maitreya. Preferring, he says, to be known simply as the teacher, Maitreya has not come as a religious leader or to found a new religion, but as a teacher and a guide for people of every religion, and even of those who have no religion. At this time of great political, economic, and social crisis, Maitreya will inspire humanity to see itself as one family and create a civilization based on sharing, economic and social justice, and global cooperation. He will launch a call to action to save the millions of people who starve to death every year in a world of plenty. Among Maitreya's recommendations will be a shift in social priorities so that adequate food, housing, clothing, education, and medical care become universal rights. He's actually describing socialism. Now, under Maitreya's inspiration, humanity itself, he says, will make the required changes and create a saner and a more just world for all. So, you know, Maitreya is going to come to improve the world at every level.
Who are you? One moment, I was Jack Orion.
Funny how your memory leaves you right after you're born. It can take decades sometimes for people to even remember who they are or why they're here.
Do you believe that the universe is infinite? Open your mind, Jack. You can become whoever it is you want to be.
Once you wake up, you can't come back.
If the prophecies are correct, he is Kalki. And if he is Kalki, you must terminate him.
Jack, wake up. How can I become as good as you?
This will help.
Are you ready to wake up?
Thought I was awake.
If I succeed, then the human race can return to a time of splendor, time of wealth, time of happiness. This is a revolution of the spirit. What if they don't want to hear the truth?
They don't, Jack. What do you think we're sending you?
Now, Creme and other occultists have often claimed that Maitreya would manifest at certain times or dates. All their prophecies have failed, and according to Deuteronomy 18:22, it says that when a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not come about or come true, that is the thing which the Lord then has not spoken. This prophet has spoken it presumptuously, and you shall not be afraid of him. So obviously we have to regard Benjamin Creme as a false prophet.
The New Age religion, folks, is going to have a worldwide leader. A charismatic political and religious leader that they call Lord Maitreya. At least so far that's who they call him, or that's what they call him. This individual, as far as I know, has not made his public appearance yet, but the New Agers claim that he is on the earth at the present time. They claim that he came to live with the Asian community in East London, England, in July 1977 by descending from his ancient retreat in the Himalaya mountains along the border of India and Tibet. They further believe that his imminent emergence into full public view is assured. They also claim that this individual is the one that the Christians call Christ, the Jews call the Messiah, the Buddhists call the fifth Buddha, the Hindus call Krishna, and the Muslims call the Imam Mahdi. In other words, all of the major religions of the world are awaiting the arrival of this one individual. And they say that he is on the earth now, patiently waiting for the appointed time to reveal his existence to the peoples of the world. They say that he will apparently assume the leadership of all of these religions, and when he does, he will create a one-world religion. The New Agers have written that in the esoteric tradition previously defined as being intended for or understood by only a chosen few as an inner group of disciples or initiates, in other words, the esoteric means hidden. They claim that the word Christ is not the name of an individual, but the name of an office or function within the spiritual hierarchy of masters. They claim that the masters are a group of perfected men who have guided human evolution from behind the scenes for centuries, and they believe that this Lord Maitreya is that Christ. Now, Manly P. Hall has written of this individual by identifying him as, quote, the way, the truth, and the life, which coming to every life redeems all who accept it, unquote.
The way that God has chosen to educate humanity spiritually is by sending down these divine teachers from Zoroaster and Krishna and the Buddha, from Abraham and Moses to Jesus and Muhammad. The Bab is continuing God's ongoing spiritual history lesson to humanity.
The Bab was a revolutionary prophet. His life was marked by drama and intrigue and tens of thousands of people following him.
Someone with that sort of influence over the masses of people was perceived as a threat.
He reinvigorated the process of religion itself, that you could pray from your heart, that you could find the truth for yourself.
Traditional Islamic belief has it that Muhammad is the last prophet, so revelation has come to a close.
Things would be turned upside down. Yes, justice would be established, but many things would change.
They would fight it with all their power and might.
They had this fixed view of religion, as opposed to the Bab's view of religion as an evolution taking humanity forward.
It was a revolutionary act for a woman to reveal her face. The equality of men and women was now a reality.
A time of change, a new revelation, a new truth.
I am the promised one. I am the one whose name you have for 1,000 years invoked.
People throughout the world are seeking comfort, but not understanding. And as long as they seek comfort, they will never find spiritual comfort, because behind it there is no true understanding of life. And for the understanding of life, you require harmony on out of this vast chaos which is taking place in the life of everyone and in every nation. For the establishment of harmony, you require no binding or limitation on life.
Now, since Jiddu Krishnamurti failed as the world teacher, and who was supposedly responsible for ushering in the age of Aquarius one world system, Theosophists, Freemasons and occultists have been waiting now for their world teacher since then. On January the 9th, 1959, Benjamin Creme claims that powerful spiritual forces came into contact with him to elicit his help in announcing the arrival of Maitreya as the world teacher to humanity. Creme started an organization called Share International, which is aimed at promoting Maitreya, Theosophy and the New Age. Creme admits that he was influenced by Blavatsky and Bailey. He says, quote, "To many today, this awareness includes the recognition of higher states of consciousness attained by those who make up the emerging spiritual kingdom, the masters and initiates of the world. Their existence was first revealed in modern times by H.P. Blavatsky, co-founder of the Theosophical Society, as long ago as 1875. He goes on to say, a more detailed communication about the masters and their work was given by Alice Bailey between 1919 to 1949. In her book, The Externalization of the Hierarchy, she revealed the existence of a planned return to physical plane work and activity by this group of enlightened men, which return, I submit, has already begun." End of quote. These people are claiming that their secret doctrines and inspirations for their writings come from what they call ascended masters.
They could move on, they could go into another life cycle, but they've chosen to stay here to help us, the likes of you and me, so that we can continue our existence through experience.
What would happen if the spiritual hierarchy of Earth were to leave tomorrow?
We'd probably have one terrible calamity. We'd probably a physical catastrophe, like an opening up of the fault lines. We'd have catastrophic earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. We don't know. I mean, there'd be insanity. We would self-destruct.
What is the reason that their presence is so important? What does their presence do for us?
They hold a karmic balance on this world, and it's a very uneven balance. But because of their evolution, there are enough of them, enough of these masters here on Earth in various retreats around the world, and because they maintain their presence here, they can manipulate enough energy, spiritual energy, to counterbalance the negative energy that's produced by the basic mankind. And it's something that we have to break out of. We have to break away from the humdrum of normal existence and the usual aspirations that people have. And I would say that the 9 Freedoms is a very important philosophical and metaphysical work that's been given to us in these days, because it sets out our path to ascension and beyond. And it's the first time that it's ever been given in this way.
However, the Bible states that the dark side of the spirit realm is ruled by Satan, who is the prince of darkness, and demons, and the father of lies. Both Satan and his demonic forces present themselves as angels of the kingdom of light, or the kingdom of God, thereby deceiving people. Although the writings and claims of these occultists can be very detailed and even sound authoritative, there is absolutely no proof of the claims they make. The same doctrines of demons simply get passed on from one person to another until they are all singing from the same page. These dark spirits mimic the Bible as much as possible, just as the New Age prophets claim that Maitreya is in fact the Christ that the world is waiting for, and that Benjamin Creme is the forerunner of this Christ, as was John the Baptist of the Christ in the Bible. They even claim that Maitreya's star has now appeared. This is a counterfeit of the Star of Bethlehem, for example, that heralded the birth of Jesus Christ in the Bible. They claim that what they call starlight luminaries will appear in the 4 quadrants of the earth.
For over 30 years, artist, author and lecturer Benjamin Creme has been preparing the way for the biggest event in history, the emergence of Maitreya the World Teacher and his group, the Masters of Wisdom. Millions of people around the world have heard his information and wait expectantly for this momentous event. For those who seek signs of his coming, Maitreya has manifested miracles worldwide, touching the hearts of millions and preparing them for his imminent appearance. On the 12th of December 2008, Share International Foundation distributed a news release announcing that in the very near future, a large bright star would appear in the sky, visible throughout the world, night and day.
The Lord Maitreya is awaited by Christians as the Christ, although they don't know it, is awaited by Hindus as Krishna, although they don't know it, is awaited by Jews as the Messiah, although they don't know it, is awaited by Muslims as the Imam Mahdi, although they don't know it, and awaited by Buddhists who have his name right, as Maitreya Buddha, foretold to come now by the previous Buddha, Gautama Buddha, who said at this time would come into the world a great teacher, a Buddha like himself, who from his great spiritual stature would stimulate and galvanize, inspire humanity to create a brilliant golden civilization based, as he put it, on righteousness and truth. But on the day of declaration, they will absolutely not miss it. On the day of declaration, which will be arranged, of course, a certain day, when enough people are responding and demanding that we let this man speak to the whole world. He's already well known, been on media all over the world, and people are clamoring to hear him speak to the world as a whole, thinking he is the Imam Mahdi or Krishna or Maitreya Buddha or the Christ or whatever, the Messiah. Whatever they think, all these names apply to him, but he doesn't like them. He says, if I'm the Christ to Christians, well, what about the Jews? What about the Hindus? What about the Muslims? If I'm Krishna to the Hindus, well, what about the others? Where do they come in? If I'm Maitreya Buddha, which of course he is, they're the only one who have got his name right. If I'm Maitreya Buddha, well, what about the Christians? What about the Hindus? What about the Buddhists, the Jews and so on? So he wants only to be called the teacher.
Jesus of Tongaren has formulated a new doctrine that has attracted a sizable congregation in Lukhokwe village in Bungoma County, where he practices his version of religion. After the main sermon, the congregation walked out of the church and broke into dance and song as they went round the compound 7 times, led by his angels and prophets, while Jesus watched keenly. But what do his neighbors know about him? I sought to know from Mzee Nathaniel Ambetsa, a retired teacher who taught the self-proclaimed in primary school.
Yeah, at secondary, their parents had died, so the brothers wanted to use part of their land to educate him. But he reasoned that they'll misuse the land when he's away. So he said he wanted to be a farmer.
Cases of self-proclaimed spiritual kings, prophets and prophetesses, and now Jesus have been on the rise, leaving many unanswered questions and doubts. Are they genuine? Or is it the fulfillment of the prophecy about false prophets proclaiming themselves in the name of God's Son?
On the day of declaration, to get back to that, he will, I don't know how long it will take, maybe 30 minutes, 35 minutes, something, 40 minutes, something like that. He will not speak, not say a word, but his thoughts, his ideas will be heard inwardly, telepathically, by everybody in the world, everybody above the age of 14. So if you're 14, you're Slovenian, you'll hear him in Slovenian. If you're Russian, you'll hear him in Russian. Americans in American. English in English. French in French. Dutch in Dutch, and so on. He will give a kind of account of the long history of humanity. Show how old we are, from what a height, a spiritual height we have descended into this materiality of today, endangering the very future of the species, and at the same time showing the future, what it can be like if we just accept that we're brothers and sisters of one humanity. We can create a civilization based on that, which will take us, as he puts it, to the very stars. And the masters will give to humanity their insight, their wisdom, their age-old wisdom and experience and knowledge, and stimulate and galvanize humanity into creating the most brilliant civilization.
The activists people are calling al-Masih. Some people are calling him a prophet.
He saved my daughter's life. Or maybe he's a terrorist.
Are you the Messiah?
I am here to bring about the world to come.
While this is going on, his energy, which we call the Christ principle, the energy of love, will flow out in tremendous potency throughout the world. He has said it will be as if I embrace the world. People will feel it even physically. And at the same time, and this will create an inner certainty that this is the Christ, an intuitive understanding of the message, a heartfelt response to the message. And on the physical plane, there will be hundreds of thousands of spontaneous miracle cures, healings all over the planet. And in these three ways, you will know that that one is the Christ, the world teacher, the Imam Mahdi, the Messiah, Maitreya Buddha, Krishna. By whatever name you await him, you will know that that one has come and beginning his outer mission in the world.
It is claimed that his manifestation will come just after an economic meltdown. It is also claimed that Maitreya wants the world to share resources in order to eliminate inequality in the world. He's going to be all things to all men, it seems, and unite the world's religions. The Bible says that when the Antichrist appears, he will do so with great signs and wonders that will deceive many, many people. So this New Age Maitreya is already taking credit for all kinds of alleged spiritual signs and wonders. Benjamin Creme also claims that UFO sightings will increase before the manifestation of Maitreya, and that Maitreya will be able to explain UFOs. Quoting from a book called The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow by Constance Cumby, it says, "Won't the advent of a single world religion annoy the hierarchies of all the current Orthodox religions?" I asked. "More than that," Creme said with a smile, "they will be shocked. I dare say they will be among the last to accept the Christ." But according to Kissling, Creme said confidently, "It will come because it must. We will begin to live," he said, "as potential gods." End of quote.
Jose Luis de Jesus Miranda claims to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, and his followers believe every word.
This is a historic event, knowing that God is here on earth.
I am the second coming of Christ, that Messiah that they've been waiting for.
We first introduced you to de Jesus Miranda in 2006. He runs a worldwide organization, Creciendo en Gracia, or Growing in Grace, that he claims has millions of followers. He preaches a message of freedom to indulge.
This message tells us that we're perfect, that there's no sin, that there's no devil.
And also no hell.
If they call you a sinner, we feel hurt.
That message, one theology expert told us, appeals to followers.
So people think of the Christian church as being a downer, as always talking about people being sinners and so forth.
The danger, Mitchell warned, is that with such devout followers, this has signs of a cult. De Jesus Miranda wants to establish a world government with himself as leader. He's also been criticized for accepting expensive gifts from followers, including watches and cars, and living an extravagant lifestyle.
And he took all your sins away.
Still, followers don't seem to care for a man they say cares so much for them.
It's a very positive message.
De Jesus Miranda has over 300 learning centers worldwide, including one in Houston, where he sometimes runs his organization.
I said previously that the occultists claim that they get their inspiration from otherworldly beings, from spirit beings. They understand that these are fallen spirit beings that are on the dark side, but of course they believe that that's the good side because they invert what the Bible teaches. That what the Bible describes as the kingdom of darkness, they believe is the kingdom of light, or Lucifer's kingdom, and that God's kingdom of light is the kingdom of darkness. So it's just inverted.
Matthew 24:24 talks about how there will be false Christs and false prophets that will arise in the end times and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. I'd like to focus on the false Christs portion of this verse because many people take this literally, and that there will be men or women in the end times that are claiming to be Jesus Christ himself. Now, while this is happening, I do not believe that this was the intent of this verse, and I'll share with you my thoughts just in a second on what I think it is. For the literal translation of false Christs, this is happening, and to a small degree. You have this man here in Brazil who is claiming to be Jesus Christ reincarnated. I think globally, worldwide, there's probably less than 15 people, maybe even less than that are actually claiming to be Jesus Christ. And even in doing so, they garnish very, very, very small followings of people. What I think the true intent of this verse is, and what is such a grand deception, because the enemy is not going to use these whacked out people that are only garnishing 5 to 20 followers at a time. He wants to deceive as many people as possible. And the deception that I see, and the big danger to Christianity, is not Hinduism and Buddhism or Islam. It is false Christianity that is the biggest deception of them all. And while we know there's a lot of denominations out there that are practicing all sorts of gospels that are not the true gospel, there is something that's really becoming profound across all around the world, and it's about this all you need is love message. I talked about this in my interview with Stephen Bancars. It's just only about love. Jesus always loved you. Doesn't matter what you do in this world, you can keep on doing it. Another popular campaign was Love Has No Labels. It's only focused around love. And so you can consider this the new age if you want. And the Pope is really playing into this as well, saying that it doesn't really matter whether you're Christian, Buddhism, whatever, the one world religion, we're all children of God. And so you're seeing this intertwining of not only all the religions together, but specifically regarding the New Age, you're seeing Christianity merge with secularism very profoundly. What's the main message here, guys? It's that in the verse Matthew 24:24 and others like it, which talk about the rise of false Christ in the end times, may not actually be pointed to people stating that they are Jesus Christ in the times that we're in, but rather a multitude of pastors, preachers, priests, and even laypersons saying, "Come, look over here. Here is the Christ. It is the Jesus Christ of the prosperity gospel of Joel Osteen. Or some others will say, no, come look over here. Here is the Christ. It is the Christ of love, grace, mercy, and forgiveness. The all you need is love Christ, the Christ that does not focus on truth, justice, righteousness, and holiness in addition to love. Or even further, some will say, no, come look over here. Here is the Christ. It is the Gnostic Christ, the Christ that wants you to self-elevate in occult or esoteric knowledge and wisdom as he did, so that you may set your minds free, this very New Age Jesus Christ. These are the false Christs that prophecy was speaking about, and these are the false Christs that are literally spreading like wildfire all across the world.